What's up, guys? Today we're going to be taking another look at managing Rift Herald, as I did throw out the request earlier in the week as to if there's any interesting topics that you guys would like me to go through, and there was one of the replies by Mush at KAAAOsh, which I thought was rather interesting. Maybe a deeper insight into first Herald's importance. Teams still seem to consistently throw early leads and slash or fall massively behind by contesting an objective that seems to not have that big of an impact most of the time. In example, Suning versus JDG. What's your take? Now, I do believe that this is referring to the first game in this series where Suning attempts to contest JDG on the Rift Herald and finds themselves falling far behind, only to be recovered by the presence of Bard on their team. So let's unpack this a little bit first. Why do we want to take Rift Herald, right? And we have to kind of explore what's the evolution of the objective of Rift Herald throughout the course of its history in League of Legends. Now, Rift Herald was first introduced in Season 5, where if you picked up the Eye of the Herald, or I do believe at this point of time, if you killed it, it just gave you a buff, right? That if you died, it disappeared together with you, and it lasted quite a bit, and it just buffed the cannon minion at the point of time. And then later on they changed, so they gave you a on hit, similar to how static shift works, once every certain period, and it was very good for split pushing champions. But in this period we didn't really see people utilize Rift Herald all that much, and where we see the Eye of Herald being able to summon a Rift Herald that can charge at turrets only was introduced in Season 7. Now even then we didn't see that much priority on Rift Herald in Season 7, but after the way the minion waves change, and we see this much more modern day approach of playing on two lanes, this very pick style of League of Legends that has been more prevalent in Season 8, then we see a larger focus around this objective as a whole. And in Season 9, once they introduced the turret plating, it was possible that this became a gold giving objective as well. And now the current way people use this is it gives you two windows to instantly summon what's effectively a minion wave, an instant minion wave for you to be able to raise people with on a cross map and to force your opponents to answer you on the map should you have the Rift Herald in your inventory. So what does Rift Herald do? It creates a tempo lead in a race scenario, forces the opponents to defend a mid push or a side lane push, and a grunt split go over to a champion, right? And why play for Rift Herald? It can accelerate the pace of the game, it funnels resources into a champion, and it can transition play to break the laning phase as well. Now, what kind of compositions do well with Herald? So there are types of compositions that do well. We call them dragon-centric compositions. They're very good at team fighting. So if you have the likes of Rumble, Jarvan, you don't necessarily want to play around Rift Herald because you don't get full value out of this objective. But you want to be playing for dragons instead. But if you have the likes of, say, Renekton and Military champions, they're very good at 2v2 skirmishes, 3v3 skirmishes, where what you're trying to do is create manpower advantages and then use that to blow people up and translate that into objectives itself, right? These are the types of compositions that Rift Herald would tend to do better with. So if you have a big type composition that tends to play on two lanes, that's what you want. That's the type of compositions where you want to use Rift Herald. So you want lanes that can stack and dive, and you want a composition that's good at playing to pick on two lanes. These are usually very tempo based kind of team compositions where Rift Herald is very useful for them. Now that we understand what does Rift Herald do, we can kind of examine what the options people have around the Rift Herald. The first option in itself is to start the Rift Herald. The simplest one, just group up and start the Rift Herald. There's two ways you can do this. The first one is directly starting it with your jungler soloing it with mid prio and top prio, and the second is what we see more commonly, and I think this is what the original question was, right? Where teams pull 5 people over to start the Rift Herald. The second way is to contest the play, where what you're trying to do is crush the opponents in a team fight on the Rift Herald itself. The third is to store the Rift Herald, where you give the Rift Herald and you allow it to just simply take 2 plates. And the last is to cross map from the Rift Herald and raise your opponents, where if your opponents swap for the Rift Herald where they're behind on the play in bot lane, then you can use the existing lead in bot lane to take the bot turret while the opponent does the Rift Herald. So the objective of Rift Herald is to try to generate a tempo lead, but if you do it while you're behind, you tend to fall even further behind. Now let's examine the two team compositions in the first game of Suning versus JDG, right? We see Gangplank, Graves, Galio, Misfortune, Bard for Suning, And on the side of JDG, we have Renekton, Lilia, Zoe, Jin, and Leona, right? So for Suning, what we have here is a scaling team fighting composition. This is a team that is not going to be contesting objectives early. They can choose to if they want to, but in general, we would not see them do it. And in fact, the challenge for them is how do we take one of the first 3 drakes so that JDG cannot fork them on the soul point. Whereas for JDG, they have a lot of early game options, right? They can play the pick, they can play a team fight. They have the sticky reset champions in the form of Jin for the stickiness, and Zoe can pick up the flashes on the ground. And Renekton also tends to be very strong early on, and the Lilia can chase people down as well. So JDG is actually extremely strong at taking neutral objective team fights early, whereas Suning, they want to hit about level 13, exactly level 13 in fact, on Gangplank, when he gets the barrel timer cooldown lower, and its impact in team fight won't just be throwing the ultimate. So what we see here is that JDG can swap 5 people out for the Rift Herald because they have priority in both bot lane and top lane. So it is possible for them to pull Jin and Leona over, and they'll be the first to the play. So they can set up in such a scenario, and if Suning chose to raise them on the bottom side of the map as they're 1 wave behind, then Jin and Leona will be in time to respawn after getting mid prio and simply walking back down to the bottom side of the map. Suning's response to this, on the other hand, was to try to contest this. I do believe that this was them trying to get creative with the blast cone and map architecture over here, because on blue side and when you have a bard, you always can open up the portal to retreat away from such a fight. And perhaps they felt that if they did give this Rift Herald, it'll be a little bit difficult to defend against the likes of Zoe and Renekton that can rotate around quite easily and find picks onto people, but I'll cover how to execute a stall later on, right? But what they're trying to do here is try to find a pick on Renekton and then take a fight and contest JDG on this objective, because JDG doesn't necessarily have to take the Rift Herald, but unfortunately for Suning, the Renekton is just too strong at this point of time, and Zoe, if she starts picking up flashes on the ground, she actually gets so much value in these 5v5 team fights. So Suning, they take this fight, they lose this fight, and they fall behind, but due to the presence of Bard on their team, JDG is not able to make good use of the Rift Herald. Instead, what they should have done is pull the Misfortune and Bard into the mid lane first, just to match the Jin and Leona, so that Gallo is able to push out the mid lane wave, and then the Bard will then be in the mid lane, so that he's able to rotate to either side lane from there to match the Rift Herald play and simply throw the ultimate on top of it to prevent the Rift Herald from even taking a single blade. So this is what Suning should have been doing. And how do you execute this stall, right? The big picture once again is to push the lanes that have manpower in mid lane. So you're trying to set up for 1-3-1, and then this will end up with Misfortune in the bot lane for a while. And then you have the Bard backing up the Gallo in the mid lane, and should the opponents rotate to either side lane, you can then match the movement of the Bard to throw the ultimate on top of the turret to prevent the use of the Rift Herald to get any beats at all. Right, so you're playing for 1-3-1, and you are trying to match manpower to where your opponent goes. And I think that kind of wraps it up. Once again, thanks to Mush at KAAOsh for the question onto the importance of a first Rift Herald. There are situations where it is valuable, right? So to kind of conclude it, there are situations where Rift Herald is valuable, but in this case, JDG, they didn't necessarily have to go for it, and much less for Suning giving up the Rift Herald when you have the Bard, and when you have the option to play the stall for Rift Herald. You don't have to contest and go for the fight, especially against the strength of a Renekton and Zoe at the point of time in the game. Now, this wraps it up for today's video. I hope you have had a nice day. This content was brought to you by Jensen. If you enjoy this type of analytical content, please do like this video and give my channel a subscribe. Worlds will be happening in the semifinals this weekend. But even on days where there are no matches, I will still be putting out content on a daily basis. Get hyped for Worlds.